I'm dating Champaign-Urbana. Champaign-Urbana is my boyfriend that I see once every 3 months for a weekend.
This is Champaign is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Welcome to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. Today, I have Vivian McConnell, which you may know as Vivi Lightbody, and we're going to be talking about her song, Maja, from her album, Bathing Peach. Vivian, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Wonderful. You may know Vivian from, as I said before, Vivi Lightbody. She was also in Santa, Grandkids. Let's just dive right into Maja and give her a listen, and then we'll talk about it. And, here we go.
Okay.
I saw a version of you, and she was with a child. Her hair was curtain, it held up her chin. It must have taken her a while, her a while. stay up all night and to take this pain out of sight. And this my heart falls asleep during flight.
All right. Well, welcome back. I had to look it up because I didn't know off the top of my head that Maja means pest in Spanish.
Oh.
Or is that not the right word?
That is not the... It may mean pest.
Uh-huh.
I would be really curious to see what country they use that in.
Oh.
Because, you know, Spanish in different countries, different things, you know, different...
Yeah.
Same words mean different things. But in the context that I'm using it is something very different.
Ah.
So I hope this doesn't color all of
No,
your... okay.
no. I think that's what's kind of interesting is just...
Yeah.
Basically, it didn't say which country it was from. It was just Google Translate that just said pest. And I was like...
so curious about
weird.
that. I'm so curious.
Well, what was the context?
I studied abroad in Spain, and I was living with this host family, this wonderful woman named Rosa, and I kept hearing this word Maja, like, you know, they would say like, she's a Maja, or like, you know, ella es una Maja. And I was like, you know, what is that? Like, what does that mean? And it means like a very genuine, beautiful person. Not beautiful as in looks, but just like very kind, caring person. Like, they're just like a good person, like una Maja.
That is completely the opposite of...
It's funny because in Spain, well, really quick, there's a little tangent.
No, great.
I don't want to say a bad word, but I will try to explain it.
Oh, this is feel free to just let it rip if you want, or however you want.
Okay, cool. Well, this is like, you know, I love like etymology, and I love thinking about the origins, you know, of and how different words mean different things in places. In Spain, the verb coger means to kind of like take or to grab. So like, or, you know, you can use it. I hear it all the time. And my host mom would always be like, you know, take the bus, you know, and use the verb coger.
Wow.
But in Mexico and maybe other countries in South America, it means to fuck. So like, it's, you know, kind of funny because Maja is like a very genuine, kind person, and a descriptor of somebody.
Yeah, it does change the context once again.
Yeah.
I guess my standard question is always, so what comes first? Do you start off with like a melody, or do you start off with words?
This song, I like to call it kind of the Frankenstein on the record, as in it was one of the songs that was very stapled together, because this one I had a verse idea and a chorus idea, and then there was like an outro and an intro, and the intro of the song kind of came about because I accidentally left a guitar on and just like leaning up against an amp, and it was mic'd, and it was making this crazy feedback, and it was rolling. And I said to my engineer, Dan Pearson, who's amazing, I was like, Dan, like let's use the rhythm of that for the intro. And so I'm just singing over it, and so that's kind of how that started. But this song, I mean, I it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation. I don't really remember what came first because it's been so long, but I would say probably the verse section. So
it would be that the words came first on that, or? I
think I probably wrote this chord progression and then had this idea that I saw a version of you kind of theme, and then I went from there. So
is there a particular story behind this?
It was a really interesting time in my life. I was 22, about to graduate college from University of Illinois from Spain. So I was kind of one of those weird situations, or I guess lucky situations, where I wanted to study abroad so bad, but because I had toured so much with Santa and Grandkids, there was never a time to do it. Summer is such a good time for touring. Going for a whole semester didn't seem feasible for me, and I needed 9 more credit hours to graduate. And I found a program in Bilbao, Spain, where I could enroll in 9 hours as a senior. So it was a really bizarre time because I was just going through a lot of growth. And also I was the oldest one in my program. It was a bunch of, you know, freshmen and sophomores. And I remember I loved a lot of them, but I just remember looking at them. This is maybe a little like adultist or something, but I was just like, you're so young. Like, after this, I'm not even going to live in Urbana anymore. I'm moving to Chicago. I'm literally graduating from this program. And I feel like they were kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And yeah, so I was living in Spain, and it was in Bilbao, is this amazing small town. Only 2 train lines. There's like a river that runs through it. There's mountains, and it's right by the ocean. So it's perfect. I dream about it. The Guggenheim is there. One of them isn't one of them.
Yeah.
And so I kind of made this small group of friends, and, you know, I didn't have a phone plan when I went there. For some reason, I chose not to do that, or I just didn't want to like pay for it. It's like so much money, right? And neither did a lot of my friends, or they just got kind of like burner phones, or I don't know what to tell them or call them. Sorry, this story is taking a long time, but I think it's good to set up. It's good to set up the background, which is, you know, I had this small group of friends, just some ladies from all parts of the country, you know, because it's people from different universities coming to study in Spain. We would make these plans to meet up, and we would, you know, basically send a message via Wi-Fi in our host families' homes and be like, I will meet you at this park bench at this time o'clock. And there was just these moments where somebody wouldn't get the message, or like plans would change, or somebody would miss a train. And it was kind of scary because, you know, I would just be waiting, you know, it felt like the past. I would just be waiting on this park bench for my friend, you know, to come and find me, to meet up for the day or the night. There was this one friend in particular who we kept seeing each other. We were trying to meet up, but we would always meet up in the wrong spot. So I accidentally would run into her on my way to meeting her. And so it kind of felt like this weird dream world. And also I think I was spending a lot of time. So that's kind of like one part of the story, is just like seeing people and kind of being in this different city, seeing all these people, running into people you know and don't know, and very, very bizarre. The other thing is also about seeing doppelgangers of people back home. It was kind of my first time living out of the country. You know, it was only 5 weeks, but it felt like a long time. And I would see people and think like, oh, that reminds me of this person back home. And I started to kind of think about different variations of myself. So like seeing a version of you, especially because I was in this time of transition and I was thinking about my future a lot, if that makes sense.
No, that's kind of the refrain that you pull back quite a few times with. I saw a version of you and she was with a child. And then I saw a version of you, her nails were tightly filed. But then you also play with that, I have aversions to her.
Well, I mean, it honestly, thinking about it that way too is interesting in the sense of it was a moment of self-discovery and I was spending a lot of time with myself. So maybe this, you know, nice, beautiful person that I'm referring to, which is kind of like, it could be anybody. Maja could be anybody. It was based on a friend that I had there who, I remember she told me that she slept the whole flight from, you know, New York to Madrid or something.
Really?
And I was just like...
How long is that?
I think 9.
9 hours?
Yeah, 9. I mean, which is a full night's sleep, but I'm just like amazed by that, because who can sleep on a plane? You know, if it is kind of like a pest, I guess the third verse is, I have aversions to her. So, you know, I think that we all kind of get annoyed with ourselves or the iterations of ourselves, or, you know, obviously it's good to be true to yourself, but I think everybody can fit into different spaces throughout their day.
This hit me as a like coming of age kind of thing. And maybe I assumed, like, based on, you know, you're younger and you had just graduated and now you're exploring out in the world. And maybe that's just, you know, because I feel like some of the stuff that you're doing with the music program in Chicago.
Oh, the nonprofit I work for.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
How do I put this? Like knowing that was what you do, and that in some ways it was like you had made a choice to follow and pursue the music and make that your career, that your focus and that kind of thing. And that's why when I read the lyrics and I listened to the song, I thought, I didn't know if this was you talking about seeing yourself in the maybe I'll back up just a second, is I have this weird thing now, and always, I guess, where anytime, and the best way to equate it is anytime I'm in the car and I have an almost accident. Yeah, this is a long tangent. Oh my goodness.
I'm here for
I almost perceive like that at that point there are two events that just happened. Like I just wrecked and there's a whole new path that was created. Like that parallel universe thing.
Yeah, sure. What is that called?
Multi-verse or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it. But, you know, so I kind of, so, yeah. And it's actually, I wish it didn't creep me out as much as it, because I think about that. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I could have, like, that was scary, you know. Yeah. Well, and especially now that it's winter and you have like where you're like sliding on the ice or something like that, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna die. Anyway, hopefully I'll edit that so it's not so long and whining. But I kept seeing this as you kind of reflecting on these different, like, kind of multiverse. Like if things were different, if you had made different choices, or if you had gone in a different direction, right. Like as if you were looking in a mirror and seeing these different versions of you. And part of the reason that I thought of that is, you know, I saw a version of you, the line where you keep going back to, it must have taken her a while. I almost see that as you had reflected back on that different version of you, and you're like, what a waste of time. That's not where I should be, and I'm happy with where I am right now. Kind of is what I was picturing. So
that is, I think, very I think you make some good points, like very accurate in certain ways, that is very, very close. I mean, it is kind of me thinking about multi-VivVerse Vivian, even though it was inspired by seeing doppelgangers of my friends back in the States. But it is kind of like, you know, I saw a version of you and she was with a child. I was thinking a lot about, you know, I was in a relationship and, you know, for a lot of my young life, I wanted to have children, and I don't know, not really sure where I'm at with that. But, you know, I think this was just such a pivotal moment in it is kind of like a coming of age tale where I am thinking about all these paths. And the other one is, you know, a woman who is a version of Vivian that is so much more like well kept. And, you know, that's kind of like thinking about like, oh, like she does her hair every day and it's like perfectly straight and this. And so, yeah, it is kind of exploring different variations of myself, but then also reflecting on who I truly am and not being sure if I am so into that all the time.
Wow.
So that's a really good analysis, Sven.
Well, you know, I spend some time like with this on repeat and I look at it. I mean, and the thing is, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface about what you're doing musically in this. Like,
sure. Yeah.
I had a brief moment to like play along with it and like kind of analyze it that way. But your musical style, how do I say, is sometimes it doesn't even, maybe I'm just looping this all back in with the song, but it's like, sometimes it doesn't know what it wants to be. Like it borrows from all different kinds of things. And then, cause I'm like, this is a modern song, but it using like some newer jazz chords, but it also like goes back and uses some very straightforward, like, you could have even heard this in the classical period, or, you know, I mean, like you're yeah, sorry.
No. I mean, I think you're right. And this is why I said earlier, kind of like the Frankenstein, you know, the drum beat, the boom, da, da, ba, dum, kind of the 50 Ways You'll Leave Your Lover, ish.
No, but that, I could,
you
hear
know,
that.
kind of that, like really, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. I'm really bad at describing rhythm. But, you know, that kind of came, my friend Daniel helped write that part. And, you know, drums were added later to the song. Like drums were like kind of a later addition, which this one it was all messed up. And I like, bless my engineer's heart because he was so patient with it. And I'm so stoked about what it turned into. But then, you know, it switches to kind of like the bossa nova feel. So I wanted it to be, or I mean, it is bossa nova. I wanted it to be, I mean, I had also, while living in Spain, I had this crazy Brazilian phase, which I'm still in all the time. So I was listening to a ton of bossa nova and like Caetano, and I wanted to write just like this beautiful chorus with a bossa feel, kind of like magical sounding.
Yeah.
So it's like this is like a journey, and then have like the outro, the feel good outro, continuing the bossa feels. But it is drawing from so many different places.
Yeah, it has a little bit of the bossa nova, but a little shuffle, and like you say that you have difficulty describing rhythm or drums or whatever, but I think that may be just because just about every band that I can think of, maybe Santa is a little bit more like straightforward beats and things. But if we're going to talk about like complex rhythms, speaking of like this guitars and
Yeah.
like that,
I was going to say, you're talking about Grandkids?
Yeah, Grandkids just changing meter and or even having a false change of meter where it's like you've gone from you know, straight 4 to like triplets within a straight 4, but yeah,
right.
But that's all you know, that's just is how Grandkids has always been. And oh, sorry,
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking like how much did you influence Grandkids sound, and how much did Grandkids influence the VV Lightbody sound? Because I don't know who borrows from whom,
right?
You know, but I would never classify them as sounding the same. But I feel like they reference each other.
They do
in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, VV is a lot of the VV songs on Bathing Peach are reject Grandkids songs. And I mean this this is like obviously is great because I'm stoked on this project. Kind of just was writing really soft songs, and Grandkids started softer, as you know. Timeshare kind of had a way more mellow vibe than this guitars, which is like awesome, and I think you got to change as a musician. So once in a while I would write these songs that were way more gentle, and I'm just like, these are just too personal and too soft for the direction that Grandkids is going in. I'm going to save these for a solo project, for my solo record. And that's kind of where Vivi was born. Songs that just didn't really fit into the new direction of Grandkids. There's one song on this guitars that Evan wrote all of the melodies and all of the parts for, basically. Maybe not the drums, but he had an idea. So Evan came to Grandkids with a fully written song and a melody. And so I had to fill in lyrics, which was crazy and challenging, and I loved it. And I want to do that more often. But, that was all of the other songs were I mostly brought in the parts. Grandkids is always kind of with me in this way. We're still playing. Actually, we're probably going to practice soon. Grandkids just made me accept dissonance and weirdness in music. And with Vivi, I wanted to make really accessible music, like to the common listener, which maybe sounds pretentious, but I mean people who just like are like, oh, this song is nice, this song sounds nice to me. And so I wanted to make a record that was like accessible and pretty, but with the weirdness of kind of mixed meter and kind of like some dissonance and chords that you don't really expect. So that's kind of where I think that Grandkids is still like, helping me as a musician. I'm
sorry, I just had this visual of a parent trying to sneak in a piece of broccoli into mac and cheese. You know what I mean? Like, like, here you go. Try to figure this, like, you just ate broccoli. How do you feel about that?
Right.
And you seem to like it, so...
Yeah, exactly. I'm like trying to like not educate, but just be like, yeah, you hear that? Like, that's not a chord that's in that key, but I'm going to play it anyway, and you liked it because it felt okay,
Yeah. Let me make sure I'm clear. So the feedback or the hum at the beginning, that was what spurned how you were going to record the whole song, or did you actually... I just want to clarify so that I know.
Well, so I wanted the intro to be free, and I wanted it to be kind of like, I didn't want it to have a tempo, or I kind of wanted it to be, just like I could sing the melody however I wanted to, do, 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 do. But I don't even know, this is the thing is, I think I knew that I wanted that to be free, but I was like, we'll make a drone. I wanted a drone to happen, but the drone had its own like, and like, and there was no tempo. It was just like, I accidentally left the guitar on really loud, leaning against the amp. And I was like, Dan, like, let's get that, And so then it was super fun because we got to kind of, I got to stretch my vocals with it. And if you try to count it, there's no click or anything. I just had to really hear the wow,
So you didn't like loop that or anything. That's just one whole take of that. Okay.
Of the guitar feeding back. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then that's kind of, it spawned the rest. You just kind of went from there, or?
Yeah. I mean, well, sorry. I think we had already recorded the verse in the chorus section, or at least the verse, and I knew that I was like, let's do the intro last, or more towards the end. And so that's where some of like the stapling happened,
Cool.
So
the Frankensteining,
the Frankensteining, yes,
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Champaign is also a band podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week, they can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. You've been away from the Champaign-Urbana area for
6 years.
It's been that long? Oh my goodness.
Okay, 5.5.
Okay, that's okay then. And now you're living in Chicago.
I live in Chicago.
I guess we can compare and contrast because I mean, there's both music scenes, and I'm sure that they all have their own specific charm and anti-charm, as it were.
Anti-charm.
So
hexes.
Yeah. So I mean, tell me a little bit about the Chicago scene, and then tell me how much it makes you miss the Champaign-Urbana scene.
Right.
See what I did there?
I did. Yes, I do.
Okay.
It took me until probably 2 years ago to feel like I found a spot in the Chicago music scene in this weird way. Even before I was living in Chicago, Santa was performing there and doing moderately well. You know, it's just so big and there's so much happening, and it is a really awesome scene right now. Like, the amount of talent in Chicago is just mind-blowing. And I think people are starting to catch on to that. You know, the focus traditionally has been on New York and LA, but I think a lot of people and the industry are turning their heads to Chicago, which is very cool. And I feel lucky because I feel like I have this little secret scene of Champaign-Urbana. And a lot of people in Chicago, they're like, oh, you're always going back to Champaign-Urbana. What's there for you? And I have a lot of answers for them. And I say it's a tight-knit music community. I have a lot of friends who still live there. And I have people who have seen me basically start as a musician and grow into the person I am today. And so it's kind of this... it's not a secret. I mean, I talk to people about it a lot, but it's kind of one of those things where I don't think people really understand the connection that I have with Champaign-Urbana. And also, a lot of people go to college, start a band, then move to a different city, and they never go back, or they don't have those connections. And I think because of, I'm very lucky, but like Santa, you know, made a footprint here, and then Grandkids were here. And that was like a course of like 8 years rather than like 4, because, you know, Santa is quite a little bit older than Grandkids. Yeah. So I think I'm just really lucky that I was in the scene long enough where not only did we make an impact, but we remained close with a lot of people in the scene. We nurtured that, and we came back and were able to play Champaign-Urbana. I mean, I'm able to play Champaign-Urbana today and, you know, still have a crowd and friends, and it's really, it's a beautiful thing. And
I do feel like even all these years later, people will still think about Grandkids, and they know who Grandkids are, and Santa, and like, if I were to say like an institutional memory, I don't think that's the right term, but I mean, I do feel like it does continue. We don't just dismiss people. There's a sense of like, you can come back, and it's an amazingly supportive community that I kind of feel like that couldn't happen anywhere else. That would be, if Champaign-Urbana were to like double in size, I don't think that it would be possible for it to do what it does, even though we have the university that causes this kind of transient nature to bands. You'll have musicians that come through, and then they will play in a band, or they'll start a band, and then either like one of the band members will like break off and stay in town and then form another band. So it's like the original band never dies, because there's always that reference back to, and it kind of, I think that's really unique. There's like this generational thing. Of course, the generations are much shorter, and they're only like 2 to 3 years kind of thing, and then it just rotates. But there's ones that stick around.
Yeah, but, and I don't know why. I was thinking about this, and I don't know if this is true, but I think that Santa and Grandkids were bands in Champaign-Urbana at a really good time, and I think that was one of maybe the flows up of a lot of live bands, and a lot of people being really active about going to shows. You know, Mike and Molly was just was the place to be. And I think it was a really good time for the music scene. I think that maybe after I left Champaign-Urbana. I'm not saying because this happened because I left, but from what I talked to some people, like it maybe dipped back down, but I'm seeing a rise again, and I feel that rise, and I think there's a lot of cool things happening on the scene right now. So I think there is, you know, consistent with the transient nature of like, you know, the college, there is in all scenes, there's kind of an ebb and flow. You know, I mean, remember Champaign-Urbana in the 90s? I'm just kidding. I literally cannot speak on that, but I know that there's a lot of history in that. But I just think the community is always there. And I think if you want to stay close with a town, and this is for like any touring musicians, like you have to maintain relationships. And I feel really lucky, you know, Jake Metz, big guy on the scene, stayed in Champaign-Urbana. And so he was a really great reason to come back and do things with him. And, you know, I don't know, it's really interesting. You just kind of, you have to nurture it's like a friendship, you know, I have to nurture this friendship. Relationship, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm dating Champaign-Urbana.
What would you like to see like change? I mean, I do feel like the change in the availability of certain venues, you know, Mike and Molly's kind of, I can't believe how much of a hole that made, but it is amazing to see like certain other places cropping up, like, you know, the IMC and Blackbird and some of the more, it felt like lesser known like places in Urbana are really kind of stepping up and filling that void, which I think is kind of neat. But I mean, what would you, if there'd be something to change, what would you love to see?
I really like I think venues, okay, bringing up venues is really good. And I think there's a lot of places, you know, like the IMC is like, that place has been there forever, and just making that more of a staple of a venue. And, you know, it was great. I played Pygmalion last year, 2018, which was awesome, with Frankie Cosmos. It was awesome. It was like in the IMC, the room was completely full. I've never seen it that full in my time in Champaign-Urbana. So places like that, and, you know, maybe making places that already exist that people go to regularly more focused on music. That's an idea. I mean, I was at Rose Bowl last night, and it was part of the Folken Roots Winter Fest, you know, and Charlie and Sam and Cody put that on, and it was just awesome. It was so cool, and there's so many people, and everybody was having just a blast. So I don't know, just like, I think just making comfortable spaces where people can come and hear quality music. And I think that Champaign is already really good at doing that. But it was pretty brutal when we lost Mike and Molly's. You know, that's just I think about those stairs a lot. You know, I have so many fond memories at that venue. I'm trying to think though.
Well, I'm thinking of the beer garden too. I mean, it all had, but I do remember when they would be putting on 2 or 3 shows like during the week upstairs in winter. Like I saw so many really good, just local, and then
touring
kind
acts.
of touring bands that would just, I
saw this band who I really love called Pure Bathing Culture there. I don't know if you were at that show, but I just like, you know, to see them on that stage was so special. And
who did they play with?
Jeez, I do not remember.
Oh, okay. Because I would remember it the other way around.
Right. But I don't know. I think, what could Champaign-Urbana do better? I mean, I think it's all about the community recognizing the talent that is in this town, the talent that has always been in this town, the people making things happen to expose more art, you know? And I think in Chicago, there's so much stuff going on all the time. It's really easy to find that. In Champaign-Urbana, I think that people can kind of I'm talking about people as in like citizens, the citizens of Champaign-Urbana, like might take all of the cool things for granted. You know what I mean? Like I feel this way about every scene. I think that I wish way more people went to shows.
When's the last time somebody was just like, you know, especially if let's just say it was like a house show or something where it wasn't specifically like a business that might be taking their cut, but when's the last time somebody came and was like, okay, I know the cover is like $5, but here's 10. And you know what? If you don't have the funds, there's other ways to support bands. But the idea that we should be a community that supports one another, and not necessarily always monetarily, but somehow, realize that you have something of value. I guess I just think back of, sometimes you can't just give away something for free, because people may not take it because they won't value it until they actually buy. Even if you charge $1,
Right.
like if you give them,
Interesting.
if you make them charge $1, then it gives it value. But I also think sometimes you have to be willing to assign a value in your own head about that music and what it means, and what all the hours that, especially if it's original music, hours that went into developing that and making it happen. And
Well, and luckily though, I mean, because Champaign-Urbana is filled with a ton of musicians, I feel like, people really do see that value, at least people coming to shows, who are musicians. It does kind of drive me crazy too. And this is just every scene. This is not just specific to Champaign-Urbana, but kind of drives me crazy when people are like, oh, like $10, your show's $10. Like, I can't afford that. I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. And then they'll go out and spend $50 at a bar, and it's just that is really tough. I mean, I get it. I've been there. It's just weird. I want our society to value art and music. And I mean, I guess music is art, but art more. I want people to value humanities more. And I don't know how to change that, except for to keep doing what I'm doing as genuinely as possible. And, because that's kind of all you can do sometimes, without wearing yourself out. I think that, I'm hoping that just by, doing what I love and valuing music myself, and also maybe raising my, not my expectations, but my standards a little bit more as a musician has been really big for me. And saying no and asking for more money just so I can support myself, and keep doing, spreading the good word, I guess, spreading the VVs.
A while back, you had posted something about, you said, don't tell me that you're attracted to me as I'm getting off the stage or something like that.
Yeah.
And first of all, you're very well-spoken, and I feel like this is something that would be important to address a little bit. So I didn't know if
I can
use this.
I'll talk about it all day.
So a while back, and I don't know if it was Instagram or it was, let's just say a while back on the social medias, you had posted something about, as a request, don't approach me and tell me that you're attracted to me as I'm leaving the set that I just finished. Just say something like "good job" or "I liked your set" or something like that. Don't.
Right.
And I was wondering if you'd be interested in just kind of talking about that as just a musician. That it sounds like you may deal with that a little. The irritation was
it happens frequently. And, I was talking about the importance of doing what I'm doing genuinely, and how I think that's really important to try to help people see the value in art. But I also think what I'm trying to say is that being a woman in music is incredibly difficult sometimes. And I don't know if you just saw all the Ryan Adams stuff, but let's not get into that right now.
Oh God.
But so much of that I can relate to, and I'm very lucky that I have not dealt with anything that extreme. And I don't know, if that's circumstantial, but it happens all the time. Getting off stage and, somebody will just comment on my body or ask me out, or, and it's super disrespectful in this way, where one, I consider this my profession that I want it to be my profession where I can get paid from it, but it's a profession where I don't get paid very much, but I'm a professional, so I consider myself, this is it is something I love to do, but it's also my job, and I take it's also very emotionally draining, and performing is something that I take really seriously. So, preset, first of all, like I'm kind of a mess because I'm in my head about the performance. And then after my set, it is a time you're not completely done, especially as an independent musician. I don't have anybody to take off my gear from the stage.
Right.
You know, there's like a lot of just like, give me at least 20 minutes to, first of all, bad taste to just like, you know, ask somebody out immediately when they exit the stage. And second of all, is just, I don't know. I think it's really, you know, it makes me feel objectified and like maybe not listened to when that happens. And it feels really frustrating. Just like, try to be my friend. That's all, you know, it's like, and that's just like basic respect. And I just think people, I don't know. I just think people aren't very good at that stuff sometimes. And it's just been kind of a frustrating experience, but I just kind of have to set pretty hard boundaries, you know?
It would seem ludicrous for somebody if you're like, oh, by the way, you were just amazing in that business meeting. So I'm just going to, as you're packing up everything, I'm just going to go ahead and like start hitting on you.
Right.
It's
yeah.
Like, and it's like, but that doesn't,
I know.
It doesn't make...
It's just, it's about boundaries. And it's, you know, I think a lot of it is just, you know, people have social anxieties and I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, you know, in certain ways. But, also there's just, you know, there's a time and a place for that. And, you know, it's just, a lot of it is just about respect. And so I'm just like learning, you know, I feel really lucky too. I played in, you know, with Santa and Grandkids, I was surrounded by friends all the time who were, you know, who kept me, you know, were always on the lookout for that. And I played in a band with my older brother. So, you know, if I was ever in a weird situation, I was like, oh, you know what, I got to go talk to my brother,
right.
You know, which was really, or, you know, that was really nice to have. But I don't know. I just think that women have to work so much harder in the music industry. And I mean, I'm so busy and I'm so focused on my music all the time. And, you know, it doesn't feel equal right now. I think it's getting closer to that, but and I think I am so elated about all of the music being put out by women right now. You know, same goes for, you know, people of color and queer artists. I identify as a woman, so you know, that's like something I think about that. And that is actually something, Vivi Lightbody is a very feminine project on purpose. It's almost like I wanted it to be like almost outwardly or like over feminine, hyper feminine, overtly feminine. Yeah. I mean, all of the things, because this is how I identify, and like being a woman is very frustrating, but also like really powerful and beautiful. And it's kind of one of those projects where like, I want it to be feminine and in the ways that I feel like, or what femininity is to me, if that makes sense. Or maybe society. Oh geez, I'm thinking about it too hard. I'm in my head about femininity.
Champaign is also a band podcast is proud to support Jubilee Cafe. Jubilee Cafe is a free weekly meal program at Community United Church of Christ, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign, Illinois. Jubilee Cafe serves a home-cooked meal from 5 to 6:30 each Monday. Their mission is to feed hungry people by cooking healthy, delicious meals and by serving their guests restaurant-style with servers waiting on tables. Jubilee Cafe is open to anyone who cares to eat with them. Because food insecurity among students is so high, they serve students as well as others in and around the Champaign-Urbana community who struggle with hunger. Meals are free to all and will be served each Monday evening. Located in the accessible lower level of the building at 6th and Daniel Streets in Champaign. For more information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email them at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. That's jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. What's your favorite non-musical thing?
The ones that come to mind are food, but specifically traditional foods, pre-industrial revolution foods, like ancient, indigenous foods, or, before the white Western diet hit. I'm talking before refined sugar, before refined white flour. I'm really into fermentation and raw foods. So like I drink raw milk straight from the farm. We're kind of out in the country right now. Makes me think of that. Foods that are nutrient dense and foods that are prepared and putting in time into preparing foods correctly. I'm very interested in that. I'm interested in sustainable foods in that way.
Yeah.
And that's always just been something I really love. And my mom and she's kind of a healing food specialist, and she makes kefir and gets eggs straight from the farms, and I grew up in the country, and there's just like a lot of things that we do, like cod liver oil, liver, we eat our organ meats, we eat like just very healthy foods that are sustainably grown, raised, etc. So I'm very interested in that, and that's kind of I make sauerkraut. Really, I'm a big sauerkraut fan. I'm actually making a ginger kraut right now, which I'm probably it's probably almost ready. But so I love that world. I think it's really interesting because I really think that people forget that what you are putting in your body is what your body is made out of. And I think we're a very sick world right now. So a lot of sick people, and more so than ever, even though like obviously modern medicine has gotten way better, but I don't know. I just feel like everybody's sick all the time, and with more than just colds, So I'm really interested in that. That's one thing. Another thing is, Spanish. I speak Spanish fluently. I studied Spanish. I think it's just like such a beautiful language, and I read in Spanish, and I love Spanish film and a lot of Spanish literature and poetry. And so that's one thing. Number 2. And then number 3, I love to swim. I love water. I love being in water. I love swimming laps. It's like my zen, my meditation. So I've been a swimmer my whole life. My dad threw me in the pool at like 2.5, and I've been a swimmer my whole life, and I'm so drawn to water.
Do you do like short distance, or do you like long distance?
Long distance. I mean, I guess right now it's like however long I can.
You have time for kind of thing?
Yeah. But also, I'm so busy that sometimes it's just like a half an hour, but it's also just really good in the winter too, to hop in a warm-ish pool, get your blood moving. I mean, it's kind of just like, it's exercise. It does good things for your brain, but there's something about water that it's quiet, and I'm with myself, and I'm just in the zone. Do you switch up the strokes, or do you just do? I switch up. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
I like to do freestyle and breaststroke are my 2 faves. Food, Spanish, swimming.
Vivian, thank you so much for being on the show. And I really enjoyed just sitting down and just chatting with you about your song Maja and your process and like all that went into your album Bathing Peach. Mm-hmm. And I really look forward to, are you already working on something new and awesome?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, excellent. But thank you for coming out.
This is great.
I hope the roads stay good for you and have a safe journey back. Yeah.
Can I say, I just remembered one quick fun fact about Maja, which is there is an instrument. It is kind of hard to hear in there, but it's in there. An instrument that is very specific to Champaign-Urbana to me. Specific to Peru, but it's a charango is in there. And it's because I had Tom Turino, Champaign-Urbana legend, as my World Music 133 class. He was my professor, and there was a unit on Peruvian music, like traditional Andean music, and I was obsessed. And I asked for a charango for my birthday when I was 19.
Wow.
But it's so beautiful, and it makes this awesome texture, especially and it's in there. That's a little fun, very specific to Champaign-Urbana, lore.
That's great.
I didn't. I was
gonna say
Kate Hathaway. Yeah.
I mean, I think about the Hathaways and,
Right. I think she started a Charango company.
What? Oh gosh, I need to
Yeah, we should. Yeah. So
no. I was just saying, there's only so much I can learn from seeing people in social medias.
Right.
I need to actually talk to them in person.
Yes.
And that's what I love about this show.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Sven.
Sure, definitely.
Thank you for listening to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. This is Vivian McConnell from the bands Vivi, Lightbody, Santa, and Grandkids, reminding you, great music is out there. Go find it where you live. This podcast brought to you by Topo Chico. Hold on one second. Topo burp. That was deep. You can put that in there if you want. Put some reverb and delay on it.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
Studio South Speaker on the inside.